Hi, I'm having a great day. You're watching JG Entertainment, and for this video, I'm in the Wasp Quantumania's box office for its opening weekend, and I'm really excited to go over this because it's a really interesting thing that we have here because it's technically good, but it can also be really bad for the box office, and it's just interesting. I think it has like a good side and a bad side, and it's really divisive when people are like, oh, it's really good or it's either really bad. It's one of the two, and nobody's really in the middle. So I'm gonna give you the full, honest breakdown of the box office for its opening weekend, and I think it's gonna be really interesting. So yeah, let's get started. So we're getting started domestically with the domestic box office, which includes Canada and the US. And domestically, the movie opened with $106.1 million for its 3-day weekend, which is really, really good. In fact, it exceeded expectations the predictions that they were making on Sunday, because the predictions they were making were like 104, 105 million. So this exceeded it. So that's pretty good. That means Sunday held better than they were expecting, which is great. Despite the word of mouth being very divisive, it held better than expected, which is a good sign. Now, this opening weekend makes it the third biggest opening in February, which is great, only behind Deadpool and Black Panther, the first one, so that's pretty amazing. And it's the 10th biggest opening of the pandemic, right under Rise of Gru, which opened at 107 million. So it was like 1 million away, or like 0.9 million away. So it was pretty close, but it still made it to the top 10 list, which is pretty awesome. So it's still a pretty big opening post-pandemic. It's really nice, still top 10. So that's good. I think that's a good sign. And it's also the best one in the franchise by a lot. Ant-Man 1 made 57.2 million on its opening weekend. Ant-Man and the Wasp made $75.8 million dollars for its opening weekend. And this movie was 44% higher than Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is amazing. So it's definitely an increase for around $30 million each time. And that's definitely kept it with this movie, which is pretty awesome. And that definitely means that the franchise has grown itself, the character has expanded. And of course, why wouldn't it? He was literally in Endgame. He was a crucial part in Endgame, the biggest movie of all time, or the second biggest, whatever you want to count it, which is really interesting. So of course, it was going to grow, and it's definitely boosting up the box office for this opening weekend. Now, for the opening weekend, it made $120.4 million, meaning that it made $14.3 million for President's Day on Monday. So yeah, that's really good, meaning that was a pretty nice strong hold from Sunday to Monday. It was actually pretty good. It didn't go higher than it was on Sunday, but it was a pretty nice strong hold. Once again, actually showing a good sign for how it's going to do second weekend, which is interesting, because, you know, when there's a very divisive word of mouth, usually it goes a lot lower. So the fact that it stayed up this high up is insane. Of course, it's nowhere near Black Panther's $40 million on Monday, but Black Panther was a phenomenon. Like, it was a huge phenomenon. It was very culturally important to a lot of people, and the word of mouth in that movie was crazy. I mean, all those type of elements really made Black Panther be this huge movie. So, and also Black Panther itself was just a bigger character. This is a way smaller character with a lot less good word of mouth, and it doesn't have that cultural impact that Black Panther had. So I can understand why it's not gonna have that big of a hold, but it still did pretty nice amount of money. 120.4 million is nothing to be ashamed of, especially when it opened 44% higher than its predecessor movie. I think that's really, really good. So domestically, the movie's doing pretty awesome so far, at least. We have to wait till the second weekend, and I'm gonna talk about the second weekend a bit later. But so far, domestically, it's doing amazing. But what about internationally? Well, internationally, the movie's made $121.3 million for its opening weekend, which, for comparison, Thor: Love and Thunder made $159 million, and Wakanda Forever made $150 million. So it's well below Thor and Wakanda Forever, but again, those two franchises are bigger than Ant-Man, so of course that makes sense. However, I'm gonna be honest, it has been very, very weak, especially in China. In China, it's been extremely weak. In the UK, it's been weak, but in China, it's been especially weak, where it only made $19.2 million in China. Now, for comparison's sake, Ant-Man and the Wasp opened with $68.2 million in China. That is a huge difference. That's not even a third of what it made, what the predecessor made in China. So yeah, that's definitely gonna suck, and it has to do with Chinese box office itself and how it's in a way worse spot than it was back then, of course. Plus, the movie itself, wasn't just the best word of mouth. So that combined to make like this really bad opening in China, especially because Friday it opened kind of big, but then after that it just completely fell off. So the movie is doing really bad in China, I'll be completely honest. And in fact, just globally, it's actually doing significantly bad. Like, it's not doing terrible. I'm like, oh, this movie's a complete flop, but it's not doing great. It's definitely going way below expectations, especially like I said, in the China and in the UK. If you're interested in just seeing the top markets, you can check them out right here, where you can check out the top markets that the movie has. Really interesting to just check it out. So yeah. And in total, internationally, the movie's made $129.7 million to this date. So Monday was pretty nice for this movie as well. So that's great. Now, globally, talking about the global movie, the movie has made $250 million total, which is a really nice number right now. Like, that's a really nice number, standing really comfortably there. $250 million total, and for in just 4 days, really awesome stuff. I estimate personally that the movie's gonna make between $550 million to $650 million. I'm going towards the lower side, but I'm not exactly sure. Why do I say this? Well, the movie itself is just very divisive when it comes to the word of mouth. And the Ant-Man itself isn't the biggest character ever, so I don't expect this movie to be like the greatest host of all time. And the predecessors also made me believe that. Why do I say that? Well, Ant-Man 1 made $519 million globally, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is the second movie, made $622 million. So I expected it to be either in the middle or just slightly higher above Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, just basically because, sure, this movie's doing a lot better domestically, like a lot, significantly better. Like I said, 44% better than the last one. So it's doing a lot better, but it's doing also a lot worse globally. So that's why I think it's going to get either just under it or just over it, but nothing too significant of a change. So I think it's pretty good for the franchise still. But it definitely kind of featured globally, which is interesting. I did not expect to feature globally. I wonder what it was. I wonder what caused it to not gain that international attraction that most horror movies usually get. It's very interesting to just know it. Now, what do I think is going to drop for its second weekend? Well, I think Ant-Man and the Wasp will probably drop, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantamania will probably drop similar to Ant-Man and the Wasp, which dropped 62%. So I think it's going to be on the 60s as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if it actually ended up being exactly 62%. Which, if it got to follow that very similar plot, then I mean that the movie would get $40 million on its second weekend, which is pretty good. Nothing to brag at. 62% of a drop. It's kind of starting to become normal for these horror movies, I'm going to be honest. So that's great for me. I think it could be pretty good, especially since the movie opened with over $120 million. I think that's pretty awesome. And of course, when you count in the word of mouth, which right now stands at 47% for the critic score of Rotten Tomatoes, 84% for the audience score of Rotten Tomatoes, and a base Cinemascore, it's very clear that the movie isn't doing great. As Rotten Tomatoes score, this is on par with Eternals for the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score of an MCU movie ever, and on par with for the lowest cinema score of an MCU movie ever, also with Eternals, with a B. So yeah, that's just going to show you that the audience isn't really loving it, and neither are the critics. Sure, the audience Rotten Tomatoes score is pretty high, but I think this goes to show you that the fans themselves aren't mad at this movie. I think the fans themselves are actually pretty happy with the movie. Like, okay, it was pretty good. But the audience, like casual viewers and whatnot, they're not very happy with this movie as seen by the cinema score. So it's just really interesting. And I think the word of mouth itself has just been very divisive. Like, maybe myself and between all the circles, I've heard very divisive stuff. Some people really like it, some people really hate it. Some people are in the middle, but some people are like, it was okay. I mean, it's just very divisive. So I think that the movie will drop substantially. But I still think that it'll still make a lot of money. But I just don't think it's going to be as big as the movie that I think the predecessors have been, which Stolen with Thunder, Wakanda Forever, One Twisted Madness. It's not going to be anywhere near those levels. Which makes sense. Ant-Man and the Wasp has always been smaller. Even with Ant-Man and the Wasp, like the second one, it was still really small, despite the fact that it was between Infinity War and Endgame. So I'm not surprised that this movie is not as big as the predecessors. But it's still pretty nice box office, domestically speaking. Internationally speaking, it's okay. But yeah, that's the box office breakdown for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Tell me what you think about it down in the comments. And tell me if you watched the movie. Did you watch it? And what do you think about it? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? What have you been hearing around you? Have you been hearing that it's good? Have you been hearing it's bad? All type of stuff, just tell me that down in the comments. As well as, do you think it's going to be bigger than my expectation of $150 to $650 million? Or do you think it's lying right around that? I'm very, very curious. As well as, please make sure to just leave a like. It really helps out these videos, especially take a lot of time to make with the numbers and everything. So please leave a like and subscribe for a lot more content, including watching this video on Puss and Boost's Last Wish, which made a lot of money this weekend, surprisingly. So yeah, subscribe for that video as well. And yeah, the very first video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And this is Jeremy Entertainment. Out.